The Minnesota Vikings Roosters undergoing a lot of changes this offseason, notably with veteran players and bloated contracts. And one of those guys could be Harrison Smith. He's been a longtime stalwart of the Vikings defense, going back to 2012, where he was a first-round pick. The only 2012 first-round pick I can remember. I think there was only one. But Harrison has been a stud. In my opinion, he should be considered a Hall of Famer when it's all said and done, even though it hasn't really gotten the time of day from the national media jabroni haircuts, but it is what it is. And Harrison, as he heads into the season at 34 years old, the future is up in the air, right? But apparently Harrison wants to stay in purple. Darren Wolfson was talking this morning about a myriad of Vikings issues, and one of them he sort of slipped in, flew under the radar, is Harrison Smith is open to a pay cut. So he initially started talking about Adam Thielen, who is not open to a pay cut. This is what Doogie said, quote, "I don't necessarily see Adam Thielen here in Minnesota next year. I can see Harrison Smith here. He is open-minded, to my understanding, to a pay cut. We're not talking a restructure. He would have to take a cut, but he's open-minded to that. When you're a mid-30 safety, you have to be realistic about your lot in life, and there is mutual interest with the Vikings in bringing him back and can see a scenario where Harrison Smith is back." So that's absolute music to my ears. I think Harrison Smith still has some good football left in him, as well as at a reduced rate. It does make a ton of sense, man. And contract-wise, Harrison is finishing out the 4-year, $64 million extension that he got a couple off seasons ago, which made him the highest-paid safety in the league at the time. And now what's interesting is that he was the only safety who was over the age of 30 in the top 20 safety contracts, who was over 30 when they signed. Harrison was 32 when he signed his deal. But you'll notice that it had an extremely low guaranteed at signing, as well as a low practical guarantee. And Harrison is due a $14.7 million base salary. About $1.25 million of it becomes guaranteed on the first day of the new league year, but third day of the new league year. But that doesn't really matter one way or the other in terms of the Vikings' decisions with him. And the whole, he's taking a pay cut for the good of the team. No one really takes a pay cut. What happens is that you reduce your rate with your existing team. If you and your agent seek out, that's what the market's going to bear. And maybe Harrison takes a pay cut and he doesn't see himself getting $10 million per year in open free agency, being 34 years old and having to come into a new system. And maybe he reduces his 14.7 down to, 9. But having that, the majority of that guaranteed with some incentives where he can claw back some of that money and maybe a guaranteed part of his 2024 salary. Yeah, that certainly could factor in. Plus, the whole staying put is really underrated. It's a very transient profession, and staying in one place with one team, that does say a lot. I mean, Harrison Smith, he's been here since 2012, and he's gotten married. I don't think that Harrison has kids, but that does factor in with some veteran thinking. It's like, hey, I have to move. I have to take the kids out of their school that they like with their friends and all that stuff. Is it really worth it, right? And teams do use that as leverage. And Harrison, even though Harrison, his 4-year, $64 million contract made him the highest paid safety in league history at the time, Harrison has never really struck me as a guy who is all about the money, especially noting that his 4-year, $64 million deal had exceedingly low guarantees and practical guarantees to the rest of the safety market. And what's interesting, too, is that was this a bit of a lifetime achievement contract? I mean, sure, of the top 20 safety contracts in the league, Harrison was the only one over the age of 30 when they signed his deal. He was 32. But Harrison, he's still got some good football left in him. He is 34 years old, turned 34 on Groundhog's Day. 5 interceptions, 3 passes broken up, an 81.3 quarterback rating when thrown at in 2022. But PFF grade-wise, not great. 68.4, his lowest since 2013, his second season in the NFL, and also the last under Leslie Frazier, by the way. And also, so we were very annoyed by this. One of the big reasons why we didn't care for Ed Donatill's scheme is that he took away what Harrison Smith does best, being down in the box and blitzing. He only had 14 blitzes in 2022, where he averaged 40 per season under Zimmer from 2014 to 2021. So Harrison averaged less than 1 blitz per game last year versus where he had 3, usually on money third downs under Zim. So that was really annoying. Only 2 pressures, 0 sacks last year for 22. And his 295 combined box and defensive line snaps were his fewest since 2015. And he does have that $14.7 million base salary this year. The Vikings would save around $7.38 million in cap space if he was cut or traded. But part of me thinks that Harrison Smith is really in on staying because, well, loves the Vikings, loves the organization. Also, the idea of working with Brian Flores. Brian Flores is one of the most blitz-happy defensive play callers in recent league history, and he loves blitzing his safeties. So I think that Harrison Smith could have himself a mini career renaissance in 2023 because he's going to get back to what he does best, being down in the box, setting the edge, getting after the quarterback, and doing the damn thing. And the Vikings, I mean, they do have the safeties where they can basically allow Harrison to be a de facto extra linebacker, where Cam Beasley as well as Lewis Seen working back in year 2. I think Josh Metellus is super underrated. So Harrison, I think that his role certainly will change under Flores, and that could be the selling point because, I mean, if somehow the Vikings are run it back with Donatel, I think that Harrison is gone. I think that he would just prefer to start over. But the fact that, I mean, these things don't come lightly. So the fact that Doogie is running with and reporting that Harrison is open to a pay cut, because no one takes a pay cut. Like, literally no one takes a pay cut. They just adjust to the market value. But the fact that Harrison could be looking to run it back and keep it together in purple and work with Flores this year, you would absolutely love to see it, man. Would love to. But your thoughts are thoughts. Report Harrison Smith open to a pay cut to stay with the Vikings in 2023. Let us know your thoughts and our thoughts in the comment section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. Want to support the work? Put a little something in the Venmo. But till next time, Skol, production value.